Okay, so today we're going to talk about filters that you can use on GoPros or smaller cameras, any type of camera that is on a drone. Back when drones first started coming out, the only way that we got video was throwing a GoPro up on it and having it take the video as it was flying. And what would happen is we'd get what's called the jello effect. Now, one of the ways that they got rid of that was establishing or developing gimbals that would keep the camera steady, even though you got vibration in the actual drone itself. It would keep the camera steady and it would prevent that jello from happening. However, depending on how fast you fly and what you do, you still can get that effect to some extent. And there are different ways of eliminating it completely. The first is, of course, a good gimbal, if that's possible to get. Or most of the drones nowadays have gimbals built onto them, so that helps out quite a bit. But in this case, we're going to talk about some filters that you can use on your drone cameras. Now, these are made for GoPros. They're made for the cameras that are on all of the major brands, Unique, DJI, 3DR. They all have their own filters. And you get different sizes and diameters depending on the camera that goes on. They're made specifically to attach to them. And most of the time, the filters have a couple different things. We have a circular polarizer. We have neutral density filters, and then we have UV filters. Now, the UV filters most of the time are used when you're up at higher altitude to block the UV light from the sun rays, and basically it doesn't make it quite as blue, so it lets some of the color show through. A lot of times we use this as a protection on front of the camera lens itself. Now, these particular ones, they come with a little O-ring, rubber O-ring, that you wrap around the lens, and so that when you put these on, you push it on. It's a snug fit, it's a tight fit, and basically it's made to be a pressure fit. But you have that O-ring back there to prevent it from going all the way onto the body or scratching the body or getting stuck on there too much. And then when you pull it off, you just basically just pull slightly and it comes off. I've never had one fallen off in the air yet, so they do hold on pretty good. Now, the neutral densities, you can think of them as a sort of sunglasses for your camera lens. What they do is they just knock down the amount of light that's coming through, but they knock it down so that it doesn't change the color, and so that's why it's neutral density. And by doing that, what it's going to do on your camera is lower down the shutter speed. Now, the camera automatically selects the shutter speed and f-stop depending on the brightness of the light. And once the f-stop gets to the highest point, then the shutter has to go up to compensate to make it correctly exposed. We don't want a really fast shutter when we're moving along because it does a number of different effects that you don't like in post. So what you do is you put a neutral density filter on there, and it gives it sunglasses, so it knocks it down 1 stop, 2 stops, 3 stops. This particular one is a neutral density 16, so I would think it's probably close to 2 or 3 stops on this particular one. So that's going to take it down quite a bit, and it's going to slow down the shutter. Now, it's not going to affect the f-stop most of the time, but sometimes it will. Now, on a circular polarizer, what a polarizer does is it lines up the light coming through the lens. Light comes in many different directions. And so when the light gets lined up by a polarizer, it does a couple of things. First off, it saturates it. It helps saturate a little bit more, which is what we want on any type of aerial photography most of the time. But it will also allow for any glare. It'll get rid of the glare off of water, off of shiny metal, stuff like that. It won't eliminate it completely, but it will help reduce it quite a bit. So it's good to put on there, especially if you're out over water, if you just want to enhance the look of the landscape. The other thing it does is on a cloudy day, it's really going to make those clouds in the sky pop. It adds contrast. It basically makes the blues darker, and it adds contrast between the sky and the clouds, and it just makes the clouds look magnificent. So the neutral density filter also sucks up light, because you can see it's relatively dark. You can see that it's kind of dark there, and as such, it's going to suck up some light, and that's going to also give you the same effect that you get with a neutral density filter. It's going to help with the shutter so that you have a slower shutter. So get a chance, try out some of these lenses. They're not too terribly expensive. I mean, they can go up to 40, 50 bucks, maybe a little bit more, but you can also get them for about 15, 16 bucks. Try them out, see how they work for you, and just have fun with them.